Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Turnaround Marriage. We are reaching out and we're really excited to do just a quick lesson today called 3 Phrases to Eliminate to Start Getting a Turnaround in Your Marriage. And we're really excited. So if that sounds like, if you out there and you're struggling in your marriage and you're realizing that there's some things that you guys are saying, that you're really sharing a lot of poison and that there's a lot of hurt and heartache, this is exactly for you. 3 phrases that you can eliminate today that will make all the difference in your marriage.
Yeah, before we get into that, though, really quick, we want to introduce ourselves. We are Scott and Rachel, and we help committed Christian couples finally end the cycles of conflict, negativity, and disconnection and reclaim the love, passion, and playfulness that they once had. We have had an amazing turnaround in our own marriage. We know the pain of disconnection, of loneliness, of poor communication and conflict, and we know how to get out of it. And so this group, if you're new in our group, we want to welcome you. And our group is here to just encourage and strengthen your Christian marriage. So really quick, before we jump into the 3 phrases to eliminate, we want to just remind you about the gratitude challenge this month. We're giving away a $50 date night at the end of the month. And with this being Thanksgiving week, we really want to help condition gratitude in your hearts.
It makes all the difference.
It sure does. So how can they enter to win our contest, Scott?
Well, make sure, first of all, you're in our group, and every day we post a little picture video that says gratitude, and it says the day, the date, and all you have to do is comment there. And every time you comment what you're grateful for, and especially for your spouse, for your family, what you're thankful to the Lord about, but primarily about your family, you'll be entered to win each time that you put one of those comments in there. So it's really easy to do, but most importantly, it's not something you're just putting down. We're hoping that it's something that you're also communicating to your spouse, because it makes all the difference in the world when you not only are walking in gratitude, but expressing the gratitude. And that can be very, very impactful. So yeah, I do also want to point out that if you're in our group and you're watching this video in there's just a link right in the description that you can click on for StreamYard to allow you to comment on this. We'd love to hear your comments. And if there's anybody that's in our group that's doing the gratitude challenge, if you want to respond and share, what impact that's been making in your own heart or in your marriage, we'd love for you to give that feedback today. But let's go ahead and dive in. Sound good?
Yeah. Who's going to do the first one?
Well, I think I will.
Okay, go ahead.
But 3 phrases, again, to eliminate today to start getting a turnaround in your marriage right away. Number 1, there's nothing I can do. This is something that you're probably saying mostly in your heart, but it might be something that you're saying to your friends. It might be saying to your counselor, people that you're, connected with. Basically, you're giving up and you're living in victim mentality. So why is it so destructive in your mind, Rach?
Well, when you say there's nothing I can do, it presumes that victim mentality, and it presumes that you are helpless.
Right.
That your spouse has maybe all the control, or that things are happening to you and not for you. And we know that if you are a believer in Jesus Christ, that he promises that things are working for your good, right? Even a challenging marriage can be working for your good. So if you say, there's nothing I can do.
But COVID, Rachel.
but COVID, but the economy, but the election, but the world, like there's a million distractions. And these are very, very challenging times. These are very stressful times. And it's going to probably magnify and stress any dysfunction or trouble in the marriage is probably going to bubble right up to the top. But if you are saying there's nothing I can do to fix my marriage, you've got to eliminate that phrase if you are willing to get some help and do something different, because our God is a God of the impossible.
Absolutely.
Right? He is a God that says nothing is impossible for him. Nothing.
What is impossible with man is possible with God. So if you are a believer, if you follow God, you can't ever say that, because that's not true. It's simply not true if you follow the one true God. So to operate in and to believe and to say that there's nothing I can do, it's to stay in fear. It's to stay in the victimhood. Is to almost like lock yourselves into nothing ever changing. It's almost like an excuse that you don't have to change anything. Your spouse isn't going to change anything. It's always going to be that way, and nothing can ever impact it. Not God, not Satan, not you. Nothing can change it. It's just the way that it is. But that's not true. We know that it's not true. And we see now more than ever, not just with their marriage, but all around, well, there's nothing I can do. It's just the way that it is. And everyone, not everyone, obviously, but a huge portion of the populace is walking around in the victimhood mentality.
Yeah, it's true. And the fact is, if you are thinking that there's nothing you can do, that is probably a self-fulfilling prophecy. Then you're not going to do anything. And guess what? Nothing is going to change. And that is literally.
But there's nothing I can do.
That's the definition of insanity, is to keep doing the same thing over and over again. And we're like, well, there's nothing I can do. I'm just going to hope it's going to get better. Just going to keep on praying. Just going to keep on hoping. And it's like, that's not true. Like, get that phrase out of your head. There's nothing I can do.
But is it possible, Rachel, that they're not saying that out loud?
Well, of course. I mean,
but they're thinking it.
Yes. I mean, experts say we have probably 50,000 thoughts that we're thinking every single day. And how many of those thoughts are self-defeating, right? How many of those thoughts are keeping us in a victim mentality and disempowering us to say, well, there's nothing I can do. Well, he left, or, well, he filed, or she did this, or she did that. Like, there's a lot you can do. There's a lot you can do to up-level yourself. And so you've got to eliminate that phrase right away. And repent of it too. Yeah. Because it's not becoming of a follower of Jesus Christ. It's because he makes all things new. Yes, he is our redeemer. That is literally who he is in his character and essence. He is a redeeming God. He renews, he redeems, he makes new. He is the one who can do it. And so do not say there's nothing I can do. But it can sometimes feel that way. And I'll just say from our own experience that when we went months, even years where things weren't changing, it tended to feel like there wasn't anything we could do. But that was a lie. It really was. And we'll talk about a little bit more about that in a minute. Looking back, I just wonder, I wonder if it was, we didn't know what to do. We were too embarrassed to get help. We were, There's a lot of factors. I don't know, but yeah. So that first phrase to eliminate right away is there's nothing I can do. Now the second phrase is kind of in the same vein, and it is my spouse never fill in the blank, or my spouse always fill in the blank. Like, you always. But you always point this out, Rachel. You never listen to me. You always interrupt, right? Or you always are disengaged emotionally, right? When we say always and never, those phrases cut to the heart of who your spouse is. They cut because they're not true. Is it really true that they always or never do what you're accusing them of? Probably not. Probably not. And it's extremely hurtful, and it's extremely damaging to say those words to your spouse. And that is where, that's where a lot of fights will start. And it's not only hurtful, but if you start saying them over and over again, you start to believe them. And I also feel like Mike Pence, because there's a fly that keeps landing on me out of nowhere. Good thing you have black hair. Yeah, I can't see it. Yeah, it's a good thing. So, but you're right, Rach. And it's not only hurtful, but it's, if you keep saying it, it's something that you really take to heart and you begin to believe it. And so this is something even with our children that we would point out to them when get lost. So if there is like one kid that always says to the other one, like, you always do it. I just caught myself. I just said it, but you never. If they say to each another, you never do that. You never do your homework. You never clean up. You always do this. It's simply not true. But if you keep saying it over and over, it begins to be this reality that you've believed. And if you're saying that in the context of your marriage, you never listen to me. Is that true? Is it really true that they never listen to you? Or is it that you're, coming at them too strongly? I don't know. It depends on what the circumstance is. But it's really, really another self-fulfilling prophecy when you're saying that never happens. You always do this. And we know that it's not true. So why do we say it? Because what we like to do is just to categorize the other person, the other person's actions, and that you can almost cleanse yourself by saying, well, I don't do that. You always do. I never do that. And that is also not true. And it's like casting the stone. It's like blaming the other person, blame shifting, and not taking any ownership of any breakdown in marriage. It's them. It's true. And there's the nerd in me is going to come out right here, because there's a part of our brain called the reticular activating system. And this part of our brain, when we always use words like that. Sorry, you never love science. Just kidding. But this part of our brain, when we start to pay attention to something then that part of our brain starts to pay attention to it even more. In other words, when we tell our if I'm interested in getting a Toyota Sienna for my next car, and I have that on my mind, everywhere I go, I'm going to see the Toyota Sienna, right? I'm going to see the white ones, the red ones, the black ones. Everywhere I go, I'm going to see those. It's because my brain has sort of picked up on that. So if I say about you, you never listen to me, or you always do this. Anytime you do that, you're going to literally. It's what it's going to do is literally say, see, I knew it was right. And why are you laughing?
I'm sorry.
Anyway, that part of our brain, when we tell it what to pay attention to, it starts paying attention to it. And it starts to really notice every time they don't listen, every time they're emotionally unavailable, every time they leave their underwear on the floor, whatever it might be, fill in the blank. So when you're saying always and never, again, a lot of times you're going to be noticing that even more and more. So get those words out. It is not true that they always or that they never do X, Y, Z. Okay. It
seems really simple, but it makes for an entirely different perspective for you and for your spouse.
You can say you often or sometimes, or it feels like a lot, but to say always and never, that's just very damaging.
And then imagine that you say later on today, you catch yourself saying that. You always do it. Honey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say it that way. It feels like that this is the way that happens more often than not. I shouldn't say it that way. That's backtracking there is just like, it brings everything back into reality. It's like, it's not like this thing that you've inflated that's not even in reality. That's this big, huge wall of frustration you throw at your spouse. Now it's more in the realm of what's actually going on.
And that also helps to de-escalate.
It does.
The
Absolutely
argument.
It does.
So
let's move to our third thing that you should not say, that you should eliminate so that you can get a turnaround in your marriage quickly. And it's this. We've tried everything. We've tried everything. We've read that book. We did a conference. We went to a counselor once, and we've tried everything. This is the way it's going to be. And that's not the way it has to be. And it isn't true that you've tried everything, is it?
No, it's not. An illustration is coming to mind. When you have a baby and they're learning to crawl and they're learning to pull up and they're learning to stand, they're going to stand, they're going to wobble, they're going to fall down. And then they're going to take a step and then they're going to wobble and then they're going to fall down. And what if after the third try, that baby just goes, well, or even worse, the mother says, well, I guess we've tried everything. I guess this baby will never walk. It's like you haven't tried everything until you've tried everything. Yeah. Everything means everything. And so a lot of our clients come to us after spending a decade or more in counseling or couples therapy or whatever it might be. And that just has not worked to get them. That there's great value in that. We're not minimizing that at all. What we do is very different. Coaching is very different than counseling. But often our couples have tried all these things. In fact, some of them have even paid divorce lawyers a retaining fee to say, we've tried everything. We don't know what else to do. We're going to put the money here, but let's give this one last shot.
And it's true that you can find great books out there. We recommend some of those great Christian books that help marriages. But you take, for example, the 5 love languages is really helpful. We even talk about the 5 love languages in our program. But it is that in itself is not the thing necessarily that's going to be the turnaround in your marriage.
Right.
It isn't necessarily the key. And so sometimes people think it is, well, he just needs to show me my love language. And if he doesn't, or if I just need to show him more of it, and then if we do that, then everything's going to be fine. Well, cookie cutter is not necessarily gonna fix it. So you have to be careful when you say, well, I've read that book and it didn't solve it for me. Well, I've read that book, and there's some great resources out there. It's like I read Malachi, and that the Bible doesn't do it for me. That's crazy. Right. So to say that you've tried everything, especially if you were a believer, if you're a person who is rooted in the hope, if you are someone who walks daily with the King of Kings, with the one who did speak all things into existence, with the one who gave you breath today, it's simply not true that you've tried everything. And God has in store, if your marriage is really struggling, God has in store a marriage that he designed for you that's far greater than where you've been operating. And so maybe it's been part of the struggle. Maybe this is part of the story. Maybe this is one of the chapters you've been going through. But to say you've tried everything just dismisses everything. It casts the blame on somebody else. You can blame your spouse. You can blame God. You can blame the system. You can blame the counselor. You can blame the author. You can go on and on. But really,
yeah, the buck stops with me, right? The buck stops with you. Yeah,
absolutely.
And so we are really big on personal accountability and responsibility, and taking ownership over your thoughts, your choices, your actions, your attitude, your behavior, your mental fitness, your emotional fitness, your physical fitness, your spiritual fitness. Because as a whole person that God created, we really believe that if one of those areas is out of balance, if your priorities with the Lord are out of balance, if you're too much of a workaholic, if your mental, let's say your mind is you're caught in ruts of negativity and a victim mentality, all these things are going to really prevent you from having the marriage that God has designed for you. And so we want to tell you, do not stop until you find the answer you're looking for. Okay. Right. Do not stop. You haven't tried everything until you've tried everything. Just like that little baby is not going to stop trying to walk until he does. Yeah. You don't stop. We just want to encourage you. Don't stop until you find the help that is going to work for you. Absolutely.
And there are some great books that perhaps, that they've not read that might address their situation. You maybe you've not had a good counselor. Maybe you've not read the right books. Maybe you've not been to the right Sunday schools, whatever it would be. But just simply giving up is not the solution. Simply saying, well, I've tried everything when you've tried just a few things isn't really fair. And it isn't really true. Mm-hmm. And it's also dismissing God, saying that, God, you don't have anything better for me. And that's not true. It's simply not true. So what I want to suggest to you today is if you're out there and you're realizing, well, wait a minute, it does seem like we've tried an awful lot of things and we still haven't been able to get this turnaround in our marriage and we're still wrestling. That's one of the reasons that we offer a free call. And what we do on that call is you go to turnaroundmarriage.com/call, pick a time that works for you. And we get on the call together and we talk about what's not working in your marriage right now. And then after we get some clarity on that, we talk about what you hope and dream that your marriage could be. In other words, what does God have in store for you? What do you believe when you got married 10, 15, 20 years ago that God had in store for what your marriage would look like at this point? And if I can help you to get from where you are to where that is, I'll absolutely make that path clear of what we could offer to help you with that. But if there's something better out there, if there's another book that maybe you guys haven't checked out, I'm going to point you in that direction, but you're absolutely going to get clarity about what you need to do next to get back the marriage that that God has in store for you when you guys get this thing right. So I want to encourage you to go to turnaroundmarriage.com/call. We do have a couple slots available this coming week. It's a busy week. It's a shortened week. Just encourage you to pick what works there and look forward to being able to serve you in that way.
Mm-hmm. One last thought is our newest clients that we just absolutely adore. After just about 4 days working with us, the wife was just saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, in a message to us. And she was like, I cannot believe the breakthroughs I've already gotten. And I'm just so filled with hope again. And they had tried a lot of things. And so, if you're out there feeling hopeless, we want to give you hope. That is our biggest thing. And if working with us isn't the answer, we pray that you find the right one. But our hearts are really for you. Our hearts are that you would have a God-honoring marriage, and that at a very minimum, you could learn to be grateful and joyful in the marriage God's given you, to say thank you for the gift He's given you, even if that gift isn't exactly what you hoped it or wanted it to be in the beginning. But anyway, there's hope that it can turn around. We are walking proof of that. Yes. And we're here to serve and love you guys. So have a great rest of your Sunday.
Yes.
Happy Thanksgiving week. We're going to be popping in here a couple more times this week to remind you about our challenge. We're going to be doing our drawing at the end of the month for our date night. And do book that call with Scott. He's got some slots on Tuesday if you're looking for some clarity and hope. And we are wishing you a very good rest of the day.
Absolutely. Have a great one. God bless you guys. Talk soon.
Bye.